Have you ever noticed how some emotional wounds just never seem to heal? How the same pain keeps resurfacing no matter how much time passes? What if I told you that the reason you're still suffering isn't because of what happened to you, but because of what you refuse to face inside yourself? Most people spend their entire lives chasing answers, trying to fix or escape their pain, without realizing that the real key to healing lies in a deeper, hidden truth. A truth so powerful that once you awaken to it, everything changes. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist who explored the depths of the human soul, put it simply but profoundly. What you resist persists. What if the very act of fighting your pain, denying your emotions, or running from your past is what's keeping you trapped? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover why your emotional suffering keeps circling back like a relentless storm, and how a childhood truth you've avoided might be the missing piece to breaking free. And if you think you know your story, or that your pain is unique, I invite you to hold that thought. What I'm about to share will challenge everything you've believed about healing, and might just open a door to freedom you never thought possible. When life hurts, your first reaction is natural. You feel anger, sadness, confusion, all normal responses to loss, betrayal, or failure. These feelings are like the body's alarm system, telling you something has been damaged or threatened. But here's the catch. The intense emotional pain that lingers long after the event isn't just from the event itself. That pain is fueled by something far more subtle: your resistance. Imagine this. You experience heartbreak. The initial wave of sorrow washes over you, but then something happens inside. A voice whispers, or maybe it screams, "This shouldn't be happening. It's not fair. I can't live with this." That voice is resistance. It refuses to accept the reality of the loss, clinging desperately to how things should have been. And here lies the paradox. By resisting, you trap yourself in a cycle of suffering that keeps repeating like a broken record. Carl Jung captured this truth beautifully. What you resist persists. The more you fight against pain, the more it lingers. Your ego, that part of you that craves safety, control, and predictability, hates uncertainty. It wants to order the chaos of life and push away discomfort. But life doesn't bend to your will. It flows in rhythms you can't always predict or control. So when life shatters your expectations, the ego rebels, clinging to the past and spinning stories about how things should have been. This resistance is invisible but powerful. It keeps old wounds open, replaying emotional pain that no longer serves you. If you've ever felt stuck in your pain, obsessing over what went wrong, or haunted by memories you want to forget, you've been caught in this cycle. But what if I told you there is a way out? A way to break free, not by fighting your pain, but by learning to accept, to truly accept, what life has given you. Stay with me, because this is where true healing begins. To understand this resistance more deeply, let's look at some everyday examples, moments you or someone you know might have lived through. Take heartbreak, for example. When a relationship ends, the initial grief is painful but natural. Over time, most wounds begin to heal. But sometimes the pain doesn't fade. Instead, it lingers like a shadow, dragging you back into memories and what-if scenarios. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently. You cling to hope that maybe, just maybe, things will change. This is resistance in action, refusing to accept that the relationship is over. You're holding on to a reality that no longer exists, or consider betrayal when a friend or loved one breaks your trust. The initial shock and anger are intense, but what keeps the emotional wound fresh is the refusal to accept what happened. You may find yourself trapped in bitterness, replaying the betrayal over and over, wishing things were different. Failure is another place where resistance takes hold. You miss a goal, lose a job, or face rejection. The ego screams, "This is unfair, I'm not good enough." Instead of accepting the setback and learning from it, you resist by obsessing over your mistakes and feeling stuck in self-judgment. What's important to notice here is that the event itself, the breakup, betrayal, or failure, is not the Root cause of ongoing suffering. It's the refusal to accept these experiences as they are that keeps the pain alive. Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like or agree with what happened. It means allowing reality to be what it is, without adding layers of resistance. Only when you start to let go of the fight against reality can you begin to free yourself from emotional suffering. But where does this resistance really come from? Why do some people seem able to accept painful experiences more easily than others? The answer lies deeper, rooted in the wounds we carry from childhood. To truly understand why resistance to emotional pain runs so deep, we need to travel back, all the way back to childhood. From the moment we enter the world, our young minds are learning how to survive, how to make sense of the world, and how to protect ourselves from hurt. Childhood is a time when our emotions are raw and intense, but we don't yet have the tools or words to process them fully. If you grew up in an environment where expressing feelings was unsafe, ignored, or punished, you might have learned early on that some emotions must be hidden. Maybe your family dismissed your sadness or anger, or maybe you were expected to be strong and not show vulnerability. This is where emotional resistance often begins, as a survival strategy. To protect yourself, you might have built a false self, a mask you wear to hide your true feelings and needs. This mask helps you avoid further pain and rejection, but at a cost. It disconnects you from your authentic self, the part of you that feels deeply, yearns for connection, and craves healing. Imagine a child who feels abandoned or misunderstood. That child learns to numb certain emotions or pretend everything is okay, because showing pain feels too dangerous. Over time, the false self becomes so ingrained that it continues into adulthood, shaping how you relate to yourself and others. This hidden resistance inside is like an old wound you can't see, but that keeps reopening. It's not just about one event or trauma. It's a pattern formed by years of denying parts of yourself. This childhood programming tells you, don't feel this, or this part of you is unacceptable. And so, the emotional pain you experienced back then gets frozen in time, trapped beneath layers of defense. When life triggers those old wounds in adulthood, like betrayal, loss, or failure, your mind doesn't just react to the present moment. It reacts to decades-old pain you never fully healed. This is why so many of us feel stuck in emotional loops, reliving the same suffering, unable to move forward. The resistance isn't just about what's happening now. It's about protecting the vulnerable child inside who was never truly heard or seen. But the good news is that this childhood truth, once faced and understood, can be the key to unlocking profound healing. Living with this invisible resistance, the mask built to protect your vulnerable inner child, comes at a great cost. It's like carrying a heavy burden that wears you down over time, yet you don't even realize it's there. When you refuse to accept your true feelings, your authentic self gets trapped beneath layers of denial and defense. Instead of being able to experience life fully, you live in a kind of emotional half-life, numb, disconnected, or stuck in repetitive cycles of pain. This disconnect creates a silent suffering that's hard to explain. You might feel emotionally empty, even lonely when surrounded by people. You might crave deep connection but find it difficult to trust or be vulnerable. Your relationships may suffer because you're holding back parts of yourself, afraid that if people saw your true feelings, they would reject you. The ego's desire to control and avoid discomfort means you often unconsciously avoid situations that trigger this pain. You may distract yourself with work, addictions, or constant busyness to avoid facing the emotions lurking beneath the surface. But no matter how hard you try to escape, the wound stays. It whispers in your mind during quiet moments, or it bursts out in unexpected ways, through anxiety, anger, or deep sadness. Even your sense of identity can become fragile. When you deny your true feelings, you lose touch with who you really are. Your sense of purpose, joy, and meaning can feel elusive. This is why many people feel lost or stuck, even when things in their life seem to be going well on the outside. The resistance you hold to your own pain is like chains binding you to the past, chains forged in childhood fears and wounds. Breaking free requires more than just positive thinking or distraction. It requires a deep, courageous willingness to face what you've been avoiding for so long. It means learning to be with your pain without fighting it, to welcome your authentic self, even the parts you've tried to hide. And while this path is challenging, it is also the doorway to true freedom, growth, and healing. Now that we understand how resistance traps us in cycles of emotional pain, the next step is to explore the opposite: acceptance. Acceptance isn't about giving up or pretending that pain doesn't exist. It's about allowing reality to be exactly as it is, without judgment or resistance. Acceptance is a radical act. It means opening your heart to whatever you feel, even if it's uncomfortable, scary, or painful. It means recognizing the truth of your experience and giving yourself permission to be human, flawed, wounded, and yet whole. When you accept your pain instead of fighting it, something remarkable happens. The grip of suffering begins to loosen. Imagine holding a stone tightly in your hand. The harder you squeeze, the more it hurts your fingers. But if you open your hand and let the stone rest lightly or fall away, the pain subsides. In the same way, acceptance softens the resistance inside you. It allows the energy trapped in your pain to flow and transform. Carl Jung's insight, "What you resist persists," is a call to stop battling your inner world and start listening to it. To observe your feelings without judgment. To stop labeling emotions as bad or wrong and instead see them as messengers carrying important truths. Acceptance doesn't erase pain, but it changes your relationship with it. Instead of pain controlling you, you learn to hold it gently, allowing it to teach and guide you. This shift is the foundation of spiritual and psychological healing. It opens the door to self-compassion, the ability to treat yourself with kindness instead of harsh judgment. It allows you to reconnect with your authentic self, the part of you that has always been there beneath the mask of resistance, and it prepares you to move forward, not by forgetting the past, but by integrating it into a wiser, more resilient self. This is why acceptance is called the beginning of transformation. It's the moment when pain stops being an enemy and becomes a doorway to growth. So how do you start practicing acceptance in your own life? Acceptance can feel challenging, especially when emotions are intense or when old wounds run deep. But it is a skill, one that you can develop with practice and patience. Here are some practical steps to help you begin this journey. Observe without judgment. The first step is simply to notice your feelings without labeling them as good or bad. When painful emotions arise, pause and say to yourself, "I see you, you're here." This simple act of acknowledgement creates space between you and your pain. It stops the automatic reaction to fight or push away. Name your emotions. Put words to what you're feeling. Are you sad, angry, afraid, lonely? Naming emotions reduces their intensity and helps you understand them better. When you say, I'm feeling sadness, you separate your identity from the feeling. You become the observer, not the overwhelmed participant. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the kindness you would offer a close friend. When you're hurting, remind yourself that it's okay to feel pain. Avoid harsh self-criticism. Instead, try saying, "It's okay to feel this way. I'm doing the best I can." Self-compassion softens resistance and nurtures healing. Breathe into your pain. When emotions feel overwhelming, focus on your breath. Take slow, deep breaths and imagine sending your breath into the place where you feel pain. Breathing helps calm your nervous system and grounds you in the present moment. Let go of the need to control. Acceptance means surrendering control over things you cannot change. This is hard for the ego, but it's vital for healing. Remind yourself, "I cannot control everything, but I can choose how I respond." This mindset shifts your energy from resistance to empowerment. Seek support. When needed, healing doesn't have to be a lonely journey. Talk to trusted friends, a therapist, or join a support group. Sometimes sharing your pain helps dissolve resistance and brings new perspectives. Create rituals of release. Find ways to symbolically let go of past pain, writing a letter you don't send, journaling your feelings, or creating art. These rituals make acceptance tangible and active, helping you move beyond mental resistance. Healing is not a destination, it's a journey, often winding and challenging, but deeply rewarding. The resistance to emotional pain you've carried for years, sometimes decades, can feel like an immovable barrier. Yet when you begin to face it with acceptance and courage, that barrier starts to crumble. Remember this: your pain is not your enemy. It is a signpost pointing to the parts of you that need love, understanding, and healing. When you stop resisting and start listening, you open the door to profound transformation. You don't have to erase your past or pretend the pain never happened. Instead, you integrate it into your story, using it as a foundation for strength and wisdom. The path of acceptance leads you to a deeper connection with yourself and with life, one that is authentic, compassionate, and free from the chains of resistance. It takes time, patience, and kindness, but every step you take toward acceptance is a step toward true freedom. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by emotional pain, remember, what you resist persists, but what you accept transforms. Your journey to healing begins now.